Hi, and welcome to Integrative Cancer Solutions with Dr. Karlfeldt. A cancer diagnosis is one of the hardest slap in the face imaginable. All of a sudden, you have to become an expert in cancer and its treatments because your life depends on it. Oncologists, family, and friends are pushing you towards chemo, radiation, surgery, and yet you feel there are additional solutions out there. You don't feel confident in that only traditional therapies will take care of it. You may, as I have, seen family or friends quickly go downhill from harsh medical treatments. There is a better way. I invite you to listen to stories from real people fighting cancer successfully through powerful, integrative, and holistic methods. Learn what they did. This is my gift to you to make the learning curve less steep after your diagnosis. The information in this podcast could save your life as it has others.
Well, today I have the honor of chatting with William Laird. He is the author of Not Me Cancer. And William, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, and then I want to get into how cancer touched your life.
Okay. First off, I'm 65 years old. Work at a manufacturing organization as the president of the company, and I live in a rural location with a farm and cows, cats, dogs, and beautiful scenery. And I am married to Victoria. We just share a wonderful life and support each other.
I love it. So what made you decide to have somebody, what kind of symptoms were you dealing with that made you think that something needed to be looked at?
Well, it's kind of an unusual story because I really wasn't having symptoms at all. But I do recall one time where I was taking a trip to Baltimore where I had some abdominal pain. And I was driving. I actually pulled into a rest area. Thought maybe I should be going to the emergency room, and then that went away. And I really didn't have any other problems. What led me to the hospital was a kidney stone, and I was traveling to Michigan to do a good deed for my wife's aging parents. And along the way, I started having abdominal pain. It felt familiar to a kidney stone, and it got bad. I ended up in the hospital, and that's when they found that, yes, I had a kidney stone, but I also had a 3-centimeter mass in my appendix. I remember the doctors saying outside the door where I was, one doctor said to the other, "Did you see the scan of the guy in 304? Yeah, he had a kidney stone, but he also has got a mass in his appendix." And he said, "That's a bad day." And, and I've just taken this in, and that's how it all started.
So you actually, it was not like anyone told you directly, you heard somebody outside your door.
Yes. Which is not the greatest way to find out, but it's just the way things happen.
Yeah. I guess there's really no way, that's great to find out, so.
No. And what I learned over the coming days, that appendiceal cancer is very rare. I always wanted to be one in a million, but not that way. And it was, I think it was a total of 5 days where the hospital was contacting hospitals all over the country to try to figure out what to do with me. And that's when I realized that, hey, this is an unusual situation.
So initially, when you're laying there in bed and you hear that them talking about you, I mean, what was going through your mind at that time? I mean, obviously it's a shock, but I mean, what were you thinking?
Well, I can tell you this. I've gone through a lot in my life, starting at age 2 when I was run over by a car and broke every bone in my body almost, and was hospitalized for 6 months. I've always been a fighter. I always get through things, and I fortunately learned the hard way how to be a fighter and a survivor at a very young age. So when I got the news, yeah, it was disturbing. I mean, nobody wants to hear that, but I didn't ever put my mind in the place that, oh, this is the end. I'm not going to make it. I have gone through so many things in my life. This is just another chapter. And I kept my mind in the right place, and I have all the way through everything.
Yeah, and I'd love to kind of get into that a little bit deeper in a bit. But medically, kind of they were calling around because they had no idea what to do with you because it was such a rare type of cancer. And so what was the next step? I mean, what was the next solution? I mean,
well, the solution that they came up with, they said that they would do a right helicolectomy, but prior to doing the right helicolectomy, they would arthroscopically check my abdomen, and they did it in 5 places. And they said if they saw any scarring on the organs, that they would not do the procedure, and they would refer me to a oncology clinic. And so fortunately for me, they didn't find scarring, and they proceeded with the surgery, which was a new experience. I've never really had, something done to the core, but it's a whole new game. And you get pretty fatigued. I remember thinking about, Jesus, my system going to work right again? And but every day I continued to push after the surgery, get up and walk, do as much as I could, stay active, and your body recovers. It's not as immediate as you'd like, but it'll work its way back.
Mm-hmm. And so after the surgery, I mean, they felt, we got it all. We're watching weight. Are they thinking chemo after or chemo wash?
I had varying opinions. One oncologist said, this is coming back. You're probably going to get a HIPEC procedure at some point. The actual surgeon that followed up with me, he wasn't the surgical doctor, but he was from back in the state of Kentucky. He said that, yeah, they did the surgery. You're probably good. We'll probably never see you again. Well, the problem was that the appendix was ruptured when they found it. They found the mass. And so some of the mucin from the tumor had leaked out of the appendix. And at that point, you don't know if they cleaned up all the mucin or if there's some left behind. And so there was varying opinions. One doctor said, you'll probably be okay. Another one said, you're going to probably face a surgery. I didn't mention this, but, right in the beginning when they found it, the doctors in Michigan, I mean, one guy was telling me you probably got 2 years. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't take it all to heart. I just pushed through each day. Now, I can tell you that it was about 2 years, getting scanned about every 3 to 4 months, and it poked its head up again in 2 years. And they found that there was some small nodules kind of seated in the omentum. And so that's when it was decided that I would get the cytoreduction and HIPEC procedure, which I'm sure that's not an easy one. Basically, they cut you from pelvis to sternum, take all your insides out, remove anything they don't like, and they remove the omentum and run heated chemotherapy through your abdomen, 107 degrees for an hour and a half, with nurses pushing on your abdomen to get it in every crack and crevice. It sounds, like from a Frankenstein movie, but actually, I did pretty well. I'm a pretty determined guy. Even on the day of the surgery, I got on my feet, and which was pretty amazing. But I can tell you, it only took 2 steps. I turned white as a ghost and had to get back in the bed. But it was to prove to myself that I would be okay. It was a tough surgery. I think I lost like 20 pounds, and was pretty weak. But you get through it. I do a lot of things that most people won't. Like, I have a 100-acre farm here, and it takes a lot of care. And even though I went through all that, I would still do things, and I would push myself to the limit, which some people would always say that, hey, you're doing too much, rest. But I always find that the more activity you have, the quicker you'll recover. That's just, I've learned. So from there, cancers come back many times. I have next went through, I think it was 16 weeks of cetabetadine in 2 8-week sessions, which is an oral chemotherapy, and kind of tough because, one, it's in your system all the time. It's not like an infusion that kind of you get the blast and then you get better. And that was followed by radiation because I had metastasizing to the lungs, which, at first I thought that was a, real bad thing. But then I learned from a very brilliant doctor. He said that metastasizing isn't always a bad thing because it says you got a path through the blood, and that, we can probably treat this. I had some doctors changes. I had one doctor that kind of gave up on me. He said, hey, we've done all we can. And, he's ready to throw the towel in. I said, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else, and got another opinion. And this was quite interesting. The original doctor never picked up on this, or any of the pathologists, but between the first and second surgery, the histology of the tumor changed. And it went from typical appendiceal cancer to colon cancer. And it was unexplainable by the doctor that found that. But he said that's a good thing, because colon cancer, it's a little more treatable with chemotherapy. So I can only attribute that to the guy upstairs watching out for me, did something to help me. And so I have had 36 rounds of Avastin, irinotecan, and Fofox, which is a pretty aggressive treatment. I've done it 36 times, and I've also done Avastin, oxyplatin, and Fofox for an additional 3 times, and I have 3 more times to go because it poked its head up again recently. So I just had chemo a little over a week ago. I'm not doing too bad. So I break the rules, and I attribute it to a few things. One is mostly my mental state. I have an incredible resolve. I will push. I will keep driving on, and I don't let the cancer really, the negative side of it, take a place in my mind. I don't think about not surviving. That's not an option for me. Secondly, I physically push. And even when I don't feel like it sometimes, I find that by doing things physically and just, you're still living life. You're still alive. Yeah, you might be moving a little slower some days, but that's very important. And thirdly, I'm spiritual guy. I believe there's a God. I believe he kind of looks over your shoulder and helps you when you need it. And I think he's helped me quite a bit here, and I think he guided me to write this book. So, yeah, the doctors, I'll go to the doctors and they say, geez, we don't understand you. This is not at all normal. And they look at me and say, look at you, you look healthy. I don't know if the cancer ever goes away. I've listened to some of your podcasts, and I am kind of interested in finding out a few more things about other things I can do along with chemotherapy, because that's the only thing the doctors offer. But I think there's other ways to attack this, and I've learned also that the human body is such a fascinating thing. And what I've learned is just things like, all of a sudden I'll get cravings when I'm having chemotherapy, like tomatoes. I want tomatoes all the time, and it's really curious to me. I start looking up, does tomatoes have any benefit to me? It certainly does. And so I pay attention to what my body tells me, because I think a lot of times, if you pay attention, it's going to tell you what your body needs. Not all the time, but there are some things that it will do. So it's been a hell of a journey. My hope is that by my example, that I can help other people. And I didn't write this book to be a famous author or anything like that. I wrote this because I felt like I really had a message. And I felt like there's a lot of people that I know, or that I have known, that, boy, they need to hear this. And I can give you an example. There was one guy, I just wrote the book, and I wrote it while I was on chemo, by the way. And there was a guy that was given less than 2 months to live, and he was really in a ditch mentally. He was very depressed. Physically, he was really in bad shape. And I called him and I said, hey, I just wrote a book. It might be worth you reading. I can tell you that guy's still alive over 2 years later, and he is also breaking the rules. And he learned a lot from me. And I think a good part of it was the mental side. And so if I can teach that example or show that example to people, then, what a better legacy I could have if I can, affect people, save lives. To me, that's most important.
And I think at the end of the day, obviously, out of all those three, I think the spiritual connection is the number one, to really kind of recognize that there's something more than us, and
Yep.
by kind of resting in that, that kind of lets go a lot of the fear and the anxiety, just knowing there's somebody that's smarter, brighter, and they're looking out for us, whatever that is.
Yeah. And I've learned that, I can ask for peace from the Holy Spirit, and I can feel it. I know He's there, and I have no doubt that there is a Creator, and He's there. He's there for the asking, and I take full advantage of that. And I do believe, and this is kind of unusual, maybe different than a lot of cancer patients, I believe that everything you go through in life, there's a reason for you going through it. And I feel like that I've tried to take the lessons I've learned through this experience and do what I'm supposed to do with it to help others. And so it's, I'm just getting kind of kick started off with the book launch. And I mean, nobody knows me from Adam. And, it's all about, you got to brand yourself. And, I'm on Facebook now. I didn't even have a Facebook account before. Instagram, I got an Instagram account. They're all Not Me Cancer. And then YouTube, I got a YouTube channel, Not Me Cancer. And I think the messaging is good. I'm starting to get feedback from people. Like there was a woman the other day, she bought a book, she read it, she said, this is a great book, and she'd recommend it to anybody going through cancer. And then she talked about she was going to face an abdominal surgery, and she said it was so helpful to read your story, and it kind of helped her mentally prepare for what she was facing. And so I feel good about that. I feel good that, I've sacrificed my time to do this, but like I said, there's no other better thing you can do than to help people. And I get a lot of respect for you doctors because you do it every day.
Is there a certain section in the book, when people read it, that they say this was really powerful, this component of it really helped me and hit hard?
I'm not sure if there's one thing specifically. I know at the end I kind of do a recap, and the end chapter is called "The Spirit of the Survivor," and it talks about all the elements that I believe help keep me alive. And but I will tell you that people realize when they read it, this is a true story, and it's a good, bad, and the ugly. And I take it from a lot of different directions. Just to give you an example, sometimes feeling like some family members were buzzards circling overhead, and I had, a son that's got a drinking problem, and how all that stuff kind of played into this whole thing. And I learned through the process that, with all the outside interference, you need to reserve your energy for yourself. And you can't get sucked into, other things that maybe aren't so positive. So I've learned a lot of things along the way. People read the book, they say, hey, this is a true story. This is written from the heart. And I had one cancer survivor that I've kind of helped him survive. And he told me, he says, you're unbelievable. You remember every little detail about everything. And he said, you really did a good job recapping everything you went through. Not only did I recap, even the surgeries, physically, what you go through, but mentally, I go into my thoughts, not only for me, but my wife, what she was going through. And the other thing I think that this book does too, it gives credit to the caregiver, because they're a big part of a survivor's survival. And she has been, just unbelievable through everything that I've thrown at her, and she's I couldn't ask for a better partner.
Yeah, that's so important to have that relationship, somebody that you can kind of lean into, when you really need to, and yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, through this journey, and I love how you're talking about that you have to kind of establish, you got to reserve some of the energy for yourself, and at this time, the energy needs to be focused on your healing, your everything that you're dealing with. So what are some tips that you can give people how to set those boundaries and how to communicate those boundaries and what that should look like?
The boundaries for yourself, you mean?
Yes.
Well, pay attention to your body. your body will always tell you the limits. I always take myself to the limit. I'm pretty good at judging myself physically and knowing where my limits are, but I will take myself to the limits. And I've found that in with some of the chemo treatments and stuff, I've gotten back to baseline within 4 days, feeling like myself. And I did that by not doing things traditionally. I'd have a chemo pump on and I'd be doing some physical work here on the farm. I found that staying active physically really, really made a big difference. Now, I can tell you that doesn't work with every treatment. There's, this most recent one, the Avastin, oxyplatin, and 5-FU. That's a different scenario because if you do too much physically, you'll get more fatigued and it'll hang with you longer. So you got to really listen to your body. Every time you get a treatment, it's almost like I got to figure this game out because it's always different. Your body's going to have different symptoms, and and you got to figure it out every time. And I don't think there's any roadmap out there for anybody for that. You just got to pay attention to your body very well, and it'll tell you, what works and what doesn't.
And have you ever, through this whole journey, I mean, you have a very kind of powerful mindset, and did you ever go into, sometimes reflecting a little bit deeper? Some people go into like the dark night of the soul type of thing where you really have to kind of dig deep. Never. Yeah.
Never. I don't give any place in my mind for that. I could say you could easily go there. I can see how people do. But if I start to have any type of negative thought, I evict it right away. There's no place in my head for that. I try to keep myself on the optimistic side. And, in all reality, I don't know the future. And, none of us do. All I know is there's probably a date on a calendar where, I expire. And that's for everybody. And hopefully that's of old age. But I don't try to let myself worry about it. I think worry can, be a big driver of anxiety and depression. And when you get yourself into a depressed state, you're actually working for the cancer. I think the chemicals in your body change and they start working against you physically. And so I don't let myself go to the negative side. I know it's not a good thing. I've seen what it does to other people. One of the biggest things I think, if I can tell people, is you got to stay anchored in your hope that you're going to survive. If you lose your hope or even your faith that, God can't see you through or whatever, then I would say you're probably done. And, I've seen that in people. And fortunately, I've been able to pull people out of that. And I did that with my words. So I feel blessed to have the opportunity to impact other people, and I hope that a lot of people are affected, and that's just part of my legacy at the end.
I love it. That's such a powerful legacy. Can you give, you gave a couple of examples of people that read your book and the impact that they had. Have you had people where you kind of directly, communicated with them and really kind of, gave them the gist of your book, so to say? I mean, the powerful, pep talk and that you get anchored.
Yeah, I have. I've had conversations with different people, and yeah, I think I've pretty good communicator to people. I kind of tell it like it is, and I'm honest about my own experience and everything I've gone through, and I'm very honest about what I think has helped me and why I believe I am breaking the rules. And people pay attention to that. And the biggest thing I think I bring to other people, especially when they're faced with a situation that's life-threatening, is I become hope. And I've even been nicknamed the arbiter of hope. So it sounds like some title of royalty, but I do think that that's a big deal, whether it be in communications verbally or through my book or whatever. I become the hope of others. And on the cover of my book, there's a lighthouse. And, the significance of that is I feel like I'm the guide with the shining light through the rough waters or uncharted waters. So I think it's a very appropriate cover on the book. And I can tell you that I've gotten quite a bit of feedback from people, even though I don't have a ton of reviews out there. I have personally got a lot of feedback from a lot of people, and every person has been so positive about the messaging that I've provided. So it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I did this for a reason. I'm fulfilling my purpose. And I do feel like my journey through cancer is something that was supposed to happen. And I'm supposed to do something with it. And I'm supposed to help others. And so I'm trying to fulfill that.
Yeah, some of the challenges for a lot of people. I mean, you get the treatment, you do the surgery, and then it's always that, what if it comes back? And so you're kind of in that mindset. And it sounds to me like, you're proving the point, it's been coming back again and again, but it's not something that's on your mind. It's not something you're dreading. It's not something that, you're thinking that, my life is ending because it's coming back.
Right.
It's just kind of, it's like, okay, so it's raining today. It's just a day that's raining, and
Right.
kind of I'll do the same thing any day anyway. Still
Right.
work on my farm, still,
Right. And I'd be not telling you the truth if I said that I'm not affected by these treatments. Of course I am. But even through the treatments, I don't like get negative or get down. Yeah, I don't feel good, but I know in a few days I'll get through it, and I'll start feeling better again. And like I said, you got to keep your own hope. And I do believe that God has got his hand on my shoulder, and he's allowing me to be an example for other people. And, I do give a spiritual message in the book too, and not trying not to be too overly preachy, because I want to reach all these people that maybe aren't religious, and give them a message as well. And I think I do that effectively in the book. And a reader will get to the end and he'll know that, yeah, I'm connected, and I'm helped by powers greater than myself. And that's probably the biggest message I can give anybody.
Yeah, yeah. And like you're saying, I mean, you moving, you getting out there, you working, right after treatment, it sends a message to your body that I am here to live. I'm here
Yes.
to do. And like you're saying, it's more to kind of prove to yourself, that
Right.
this is me doing. And
Right.
because as soon as you stop, as soon as you slow down, then that's kind of a message to the body saying that, we're in a direction where we are slowing down the activity of the body and where there's less
Yep.
life inside.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And yeah, I can tell you, even after I had that high-pec surgery, I'm in the hospital taking customer calls, right? And I wasn't able to get right back to work. That's a pretty rough surgery, but I was back at work in 8 weeks at a full-time capacity. But even before the 8 weeks, I was still working. And so I never gave myself the chance to think that, okay, my whole life is going to change. Life goes on, and it's not always supposed to be easy. And you play the hand that you dealt, and you play it the best way you can, and you hope that you're fulfilling whatever purpose in your life that you're supposed to. And you take the bad situations and figure out, okay, what am I supposed to be learning here? What am I supposed to be doing with this? And that's what I did. That's what I tried to do. And from what I hear from other people, I've done that pretty effectively.
Yes, making the weak strong, making the challenges become your strength, and
Yes.
and that is it's a challenge for everyone, and it's important to kind of step into that and recognize that here, this is tough time, yes, but it's here for me to get better at this and get stronger in this area. So
yeah, I totally agree.
Well, William, I'm so grateful that you're spreading this message. This is a message that's truly needed out there. So
Right.
where can people go to get your book? Not Me.
Well, there's a lot of different places. I mean, you can go to Amazon. It's Not Me Cancer's there. Archway Publishing is the publisher. They're a division of Simon & Schuster. They can be purchased there. But pretty much a lot of recognized like Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart. It's really available in most places. I haven't had like tons of sales, but nobody knows me from Adam. I'm just figuring out how to get this message out there on social media. I think I'm doing it effectively, though I think you got to build your credibility, and so I'm in that stage now, but it's very rewarding to me that I know I've affected people already. And even if it's a small amount, it made all of my time and effort to write this book all worth it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much, William. I really thoroughly enjoyed this, and thank you for the message you're spreading.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for all you do for cancer patients.
Thank you.
All right.
The information in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not designed to diagnose or treat any disease. If you'd like to know more about what my center offers, please visit thekarlfeldtcenter.com. Please join us next week for another live consultation with a patient diagnosed with cancer on Integrative Cancer Solutions with Dr. Karlfeldt.